Hey everyone, this is Adnan with Canon's Trending Videos, and this is part 2 of video series for 70-410. 70-410, which is another exam, which is one of the exams for MCSA, and that is Administrating Windows Server 2012 R2. Uh, so in this chapter, and we are following this book, Administrating Windows Server 2012. In this is chapter 3, configuring name resolution. So in this chapter I'm going to go through all about DNS zones, forwarders, and advanced DNS configuration. We'll go through some vents definitions as well. Now let's get started. In our architecture we have two servers here, both are server 2012 R2. These are the IP addresses. If you're following the videos, you already know this architecture. If not, then all you need to do, create two servers, server 2012 R2, both server 2012 R2, and then install Active Directory on both of them. And then have a client Windows 7 or Windows 8 ready. Let's get started. So first of all, let's understand what is DNS. So first of all, DNS, it stands for domain name services. So I'm gonna say, sorry, domain name system. Domain name system. The main purpose of domain name system is name resolution. Is name resolution. Now, what is name resolution? Name resolution is to understand domain name system. Let's take an example. I have, let's say, two servers here. Now we know that all these servers, they can just communicate over the network just through IP addresses. Without IP address, two machines cannot talk to each other. So we must provide them with IP address. Let's say I have IP addresses that is 100.10 here, and my second machine's IP address is 100.20, and the name of these machines are, we'll call them egreen SRV1, and this one egreen SRV2. So two machines. Now, if server 1 needs to communicate to server 2, normally what happens is this server would connect through this IP address to the network, and then it goes all the way from here and connect to this other machine. Now in real environment, the network is connected to switches, and switches, network cards, network cables, they understand only IP language. But guys, there are many applications that only works by name. So there are exchange applications, exchange email services that only connect to each other machines, to client, to other exchange server through name. And then there are many other things that works by name. uh, the most common thing is when a user normally connects from his laptop, his or her laptop, to internet to browse any website. So most of the time that is done through name resolution as well. So this is my internet, and you connect to any website. You're trying to connect to, let's say, gmail.com, and you're connecting to gmail.com. Gmail.com basically is a word that network card doesn't understand, so there has to be something that converts gmail.com to IP address, so that this information goes to internet. So DNS is that service that takes the name and translates them into IP address. So that's simple it is. DNS stands for Domain Name System. The main purpose is name resolution. I'm gonna write here name resolution. And so since I do need a space here, let me just remove this. delete this. Okay, so name resolution. Now, so what is DNS? So in order to install DNS, DNS is a role in Server 2012 R2. Normally, DNS is always installed as soon as you install ADDS role. As soon as you install ADDS role in any machine, DNS role is automatically installed with it. Now, DNS, which is a domain name system, it's a role that is automatically installed on a machine. As soon as DNS role is installed on a machine, what happens? It automatically creates DNS automatically creates a list in this server, and this list contains names and IP addresses. So it will contain names and IP address, name and IP address. These each row is known as records, and this list is known as zone. So DNS has zones, zones has records, records are of many different types. Let me show you here. So now let's understand DNS before I start configuring DNS. So let's say this is our server, and this is the first time you added a DNS role on it. So let's say as soon as you add ADDS role, DNS role is created on it, and as soon as DNS role is created, a list is automatically created on this machine, and this list is known as zone. And this zone has what? This zone has computer name, so it has name, and here it's record type, and here it has IP address. Now it will be something like, let's say if my server name is egreen, the srv1, the type is A, and the IP address is 192.168.100.10. And then there will be second machine, so egreen srv2, record is type is A, and it's the same IP address, same subnet and different. So here this is known as zone. So this list is known as zone, that is automatically created, and each of this line from here to here, this is known as DNS records. This is known as DNS record. And DNS records are of many types. DNS records are of many types. For example, there are A host records. There are A host records, triple A host records. Then there are PTR records. Then there are Exchange MX records. Then there are SRV records. Then there is SOA records, and finally then there is NS record. So these all record types are different, but the most common type that all machines are automatically registered with is a host record. This is the most common type of record, and all computers and all devices have a records in DNS. And let me show you while we are here. So first of all, before I show you, DNS creates a list. This list is known as zone. The list is automatically managed. These records are automatically created. 90% of DNS work is done automatically. There is 10% that we need to understand, that we need to know how to troubleshoot and how to manage it. So these records are automatically, as soon as a machine is registered in Active Directory, a DNS record is created for that machine. And then a record is the most common type of record. It contains server name and IP address. And then triple A record is just like a record, but this is just for IPv6 IP addresses. And a record is for IPv4 IP addresses. SOA record is just for the first authoritative DNS. So this is SOA record is for first. Authoritative DNS. Meaning you can say it's the first DNS server in your network. NS record is for all DNS servers. So let's say in my environment I have 10 DNS servers, so there will be 10 NS records in my DNS, all DNS servers. PTR record is for reverse lookup. And I'll show you when I create MX record. M stands for mail, X stands for exchange. This is for email services. And then SRV record, these are service locator records. So mostly this is for to locate different type of services, but the most common is this is to locate domain controllers. Locate domain controllers. So this is how it is. Now let's summarize this here. DNS has zones, and zones are of two major types. Zones are two major types. One is forward lookup zone, and the other one is reverse lookup zone. Here the word is lookup. Forward lookup zone and reverse lookup zone. And forward lookup function is forward lookup zone function is to resolve uh, names to IP address, names to IP address, whereas reverse lookup zone function is to resolve, I'm gonna say resolve IP address to name. That's reverse lookup. Now reverse lookup. Let me create another disk here. Okay, so that's cleaned up. Let me copy some more. Copy whiteboard here. Okay. Now, so we were talking about DNS. DNS has zones. Sorry. DNS has zones, and zones are of two types. There is a forward lookup zone, and there is reverse lookup zone. I would say these are just short for, I mean, just there it RLZ doesn't mean anything, but it's just short for reverse lookup zone. This is forward lookup zone, and both of these type of zones, they are of further three types. There can be number one is primary zone, secondary zone, number two is secondary zone, and then stub zone. Primary zone is of further two types. There is AD integrated zone, and it is a standard zone. Now, first of all, what is a zone? Zone is a list of records as we discussed earlier, it's a list of records. Now, if this list is sitting inside Active Directory, it is known as primary Active Directory zone. A zone that sits inside Active Directory is known as primary zone, whereas a zone that is not sitting in Active Directory but as a file on a disk is known as standard zone. And then secondary zones are read-only zones. These are read-only zones. They are copies of primary zone. This is just for read purposes. And stub zones are pointer zones where we point to another zone for another domain. These are pointer zones. Okay, so let's get started. Let's see what do we have in our server. Now, going on to my server number 1, I'm going to show you that in order to manage DNS, what we need to do, we always need to make sure first DNS role is here in our server. So we do have a DNS role in here. In Server Manager, I can see that role, which is right like this. Now, in order to open DNS console, I can right click here and open DNS Manager, or I can go to Tools here and open DNS Manager right from here. Once the DNS Manager open, just like we said, zones, DNS has zones, so it has forward lookup zone, reverse lookup zone. Forward lookup zone function is that it resolves names to IP address, and reverse lookup resolves IP address to name. And then right here, forward lookup zone, in this it has two lists. So zone is nothing but a list, as I can show you that this is my zone, this is a default zone, and this is the list that I was talking about. And right here, as I was saying, that this list, so zone, DNS has zone, which is a list has records, and records are of different types. And as we can see, that DNS has SOA record. SOA simply means this is the first DNS server or authoritative DNS server, whereas NS is just a DNS server record. A host is given to all types of records. Let's check that out here on a server. And here I can see that this is my DNS server in DNS Manager, and here this is my default zone that is automatically created, and this is the list that it is created. So most of the records are A host record. For example, there is one record for SRV A record. There is another record for SRV because there are two network cards here on this. That's why there are two records for this. There is one record for SRV2. And this is start of authority record, meaning this is the first DNS server, and it's pointing to who? It is pointing to SRV1, as SRV1 is the main DNS server for this domain. And NS record, it is also pointing to SRV1 because it's a DNS server. Other than this, then there are all other records are here. Always remember, this is our main domain, and anything that starts with underscore, there is a DNS system managed zone. We don't make any changes to this. This is automatically managed by DNS services. But if we go inside, it mostly shows you SRV records. So if I go into here, I can see SRV records here. So in other words, DNS underscore, it is a system managed zone. We don't make any changes. The only thing we need to look at is this zone here. Now let's open DNS on my other server as well. So again, I'm going to go into Server Manager. Within Server Manager, I'm going to go here within DNS, and here I can see that I have forward lookup zone, and I have one zone available, which is this zone. And this is exactly the same zone. Now, these zones, as I said, as we mentioned here, that DNS zones are of two types, forward lookup zone, reverse lookup zone. And both of these zones are of three types, which is primary zone, forward lookup zone. If it is a primary zone can be AD integrated or standard. Let's look that out. Now, in this, all you need to do, right click on this zone and go to properties. So once you go into properties, it's showing that this zone, egreen.pri, it's Active Directory integrated zone. It is a zone that is sitting inside Active Directory. The advantage of Active Directory Integrated Zone, it is secure. It is sitting in Active Directory. It is replicated very in a fast manner to all other DNS available within your network. And this, most importantly, this zone is running. So main function of this DNS is, if server 1 tries to connect to server 2 by name, a query is sent to a DNS server, and DNS server looks into its database and takes the IP address based on the name. For example, if server 1 is looking for server 2, this IP address will be taken and given back to server 1. Now if we go into properties here, the properties shows that this is a zone, this zone is running. It is of type AD integrated zone, and here it is replicating with all DNS servers. And since it is AD integrated zone, it will do dynamic updates, which is secure only updates. So this is the place where it says that which type of client should be automatically registering in DNS. So we're saying secure clients only, meaning secure means that only clients that are part of Active Directory, they'll be automatically registering in it. Then there is next option that is known as aging. Aging simply dictates that how often DNS database will be cleaned. So for example, here if there are any stall records or any record that are not in use for more than 7 days, I'm gonna come here, more than 14 days, these records will be deleted. That is known as scavenging stall records. Now if you uncheck this, then it means it won't clean up the records that are more than 7 days, 14 days old. So scavenging is option B. Need to enable it. If it is not enabled, please go ahead and enable this option. Again, scavenging or aging is used for cleanup of records that are more than 14 days old and they are not active within DNS. Then here it shows us this is my SOA record, which is this server is the start of authority, meaning the DNS started from this server. This DNS zone is registered from this server is the authoritative DNS. And then here I have name servers. Name server means this is a DNS server that exists in this DNS. So these are the settings we have in DNS. Now if you need to create more records, just like we discussed before, these host records will be automatically registered within DNS. You don't need to register them. As soon as you create a new client machine and this client machine joins to Active Directory, a new record will be automatically registered here. Now but sometimes we do need to create records. And how do we create a record? We can say I can create a record called new host, and I would name it, let's say, C green CL2, and let's say the IP address is .56. And then if you need to create a PTR record, you can create a PTR record, but for that you have to have a reverse lookup zone. I'm not going to create this at the moment, and then I'm going to select this option and create it. As you can see, the record is created. Now there are many other types of records that can be created. For example, I can create another record that is called CNAME. CNAME is alias for existing a host record. For example, we need to connect to CL2 or maybe CL1 with the name web server. So I can say that a web server, and it will point to who? It will point to one of the records in our forward lookup zone, which is this record here. So now I created a CNAME. So if anybody who needs to connect to web server, as soon as they try to connect to web server, it will point to this record, and this record will connect to this IP address. So basically CNAMEs are alias records for existing a host record. Other than that, I can also create MX record, which is specially for Exchange. So I can go here, I can say, okay, Exchange record is webmail, can call it webmail, and then I can point it to one of the record of my exchange server. Let's say if server 2 is my exchange server, I can point that record to this, and I can create a mail exchange record. Again, if somebody tries to connect to webmail, webmail will point to this server, and this server will provide this IP address. So that's how it is. In the same manner, we can create a reverse lookup for our zone. Now, by default, reverse lookups are not created. Reverse lookup, based on our previous discussion, it resolves IP address to name. So let's create a reverse lookup zone. So all you need to do, right click on reverse lookup, just say new zone, and create a primary zone that will sit in Active Directory. So we'll say, and here it will replicate to all DNS. It is just for IPv4, and then next. Now here we need to provide our network subnet map. So 192, 168, and 100. So you will provide it in this manner, and your network ID, not the host, just the network ID. That's the first 3 octets, and next and next and done. So your reverse lookup zone is created. Now what happens with reverse lookup zone? It will contain all PTR records. Let's go back in eGreen and create a new record. So I'm going to create a new record, which is a host record, and I'm going to call this is eGreen CL3, and this time I am going to provide IP address. So we provided IP address before. So IP address that is provided, let's say, is 58, and this time I'm going to choose this option, which is PTR record. Create PTR record, add host. It is created, but at the same time for this client there is a record, there should be a record created in here, which is this one. So for CL3, a PTR record is also created. So PTR record is created. PTR is a reverse lookup. So this is a forward record. This resolves name to IP address. But if somebody want to resolve IP address to name, that request will go to reverse lookup zone, and from here it will provide that record here. Now with this, so this is forward lookup zone and reverse lookup zone. So far what we did now at the moment is we were working with just one zone and some records. We created a PTR record, we created a reverse lookup zone. Now in the next example, I'm going to show you how to create these different type of zone. If you ever need to create a new zone and then create a secondary zone for a new zone, how do we do that? So all we need to do is this. Let's go on to our first server, and let's create a new forward lookup zone under this. So I'm going to create a new zone called new zone, and here let's create a new zone. So this zone will be a primary zone for my partner company. Let's say I have a partner company, I need to create another zone in my server. I would say my zone name is, let's say it is CANIPS.PRI. So this is a new zone I am creating. Now why am I creating this zone? The reason for creating the zone is it could be that I have a partner company within the same organization for which I need to provide name resolution, and partner company to eGreen is CANIPS. So I'm creating a zone for CANIPS.PRI. So it is created. So this zone, and this zone to start with has only two records, which is SOA record and NS record. SOA, which means that this zone is owned by SRV1, because we created it here. It doesn't exist on on other server. So SOA points to SOA points to this zone, and secondly, it is a DNS server and no other record exists. Let's say within this zone there are some records as well. Let's create a few records. So I'm gonna go here and create a new record called CANIPS SRV1, and it has IP address of, let's say, 172 168.100.10. So this is one record. Since this zone does not have a PTR reverse lookup zone, if it's giving me warning message, it won't create a PTR record. So I'm going to create a second record. So again, canvas SRV2, and this points to IP address 172.168.20. So I created two records in here now. It's done. So two records created in this zone. So this is a primary zone that sits inside Active Directory. Now let's see how to create a secondary zone for this. So I'm going to go on to my second server, and here in forward lookup zone, I'm going to create a new zone, and here I'm going to create a secondary zone. Now secondary zone simply means that it will be a read-only zone for the primary zone, and it should point to primary. I can create another primary, but in this example I just want to show you what is secondary zone. So once you go in here, secondary zone, we need to name it exactly as our primary zone. So I need to name it canvas.pri first. So I'm going to say this is canvas.pri, and in here, since it is secondary zone, it's saying what is your master, where is your master zone. So my master zone sits on this server, so I'm going to write the IP address of the other server, first server. So 192.100.10, and then enter, press enter. It should turn to green. If it doesn't turn to green, it means that maybe this server cannot ping this server is not available and all that. It must turn to green. So next and next. Now you see that I have this zone available. But as you can see, I did create a zone, but it's saying the zone is not loaded. So there are a few more things to do. Now if you need this zone, now first of all, why are we creating a secondary zone? We are creating a secondary zone because let's say in this network we have 10,000 clients or 5,000 clients, and one server is not enough. Or maybe if this server goes down, there should still be name resolution available from second server. For all those reasons, we're creating a secondary zone for canapps.pri. Now, it should show you exactly like this from the other side, but it doesn't. So if I go to server 1, here I do see 4 records. In this there should be 4 records, but why is it not showing? Because first time you need to allow zone transfer. If I go right click on this, it says transfer from master. I need to do this, but this even won't work. Why? Because zone transfer is not allowed from primary zone by default. So all I need to do is this: right click on your new zone, go to properties, and go to zone transfer, and here say allow zone transfer to any server. So I'm gonna click apply and come back to this server here, and then do a zone transfer one more time. As soon as I do, now I'll refresh, and sometime it might take some time to refresh the zone, or sometimes I would need to close it and open DNS Manager one more time. So DNS Manager open, forward lookup zone, canapps. It is still not updated. Let me see one more time here. I'm gonna go here and zone transfer to any server, and let's see, go back here. It is still not loaded, so probably we might need to give it some time. At the same time, I need to check my firewalls. Firewalls should be off. Oh, the domain firewall is on. This might be the bottleneck. I'll just disconnect the firewall and I'll do the zone transfer one more time. So since I initiated a zone transfer one more time, I'll close this, reopen it again, and now I see the zone. So the firewall was the issue. So before it was not pulling up everything. Now whatever you do, whatever records are created here, you can see them here. But now the big difference between primary and secondary, on primary zone, if I do, I can create new records here. So if I need to create a new record, let's say I'm going to create a canet CL1 and point it to IP address 172.168.100.50. So in this, I can create a record in primary, but I cannot create any record on secondary because secondary is a read-only zone. I don't have those options here, so I can't. But if I need to add anything to this zone, I always need to go to primary and add it. So this is known as primary standard and secondary standard zone. Here, if I refresh it, and if I do transfer from master and refresh, that record should automatically come here, the record that I created there. So guys, this is about DNS server, and in next video I'm gonna give you more information about some more options in DNS server. Thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next video.